Hello everyone, it's Linda Ockwell-Jenner here again with the 7th edition of SBCN TV, and I have my partner in crime, Steve Bentley, Northern River Financial, with us.
How are you?
I'm going to tell you the truth, after a lovely long weekend, I'm not ready to come back to work.
I don't think anybody is after a long weekend, are they? You know?
No. And the weather wasn't the nicest, but, you know, now I'm here and you're here, lightening up my life, Steve. I'm happy to be back.
Well, we were supposed to go on a hike on Sunday afternoon with a favorite friend of mine who's a photographer. And we were at a certain place in Opeongo, and that's exactly what happened. We were going to go on a couple-hour hike, and all of a sudden, torrential downpour.
Really?
So it kind of changed the plans for the afternoon, but we had a great time.
This is it. You've got to make the most of your spare time when you're in business. And like you and I, Steve, we don't get a lot of spare time. So we're happy to be back with SBCN TV again. It's nice to see some of you listening live. And we've had a few people ask us questions. And the first one is, this is a lovely one. It creates controversy. When should you reply to emails? I'll throw it over to you, Steve.
Never.
Never.
No. You know what? Biggest thing is it depends on the type of business you're in, number one, right? Because there are going to be some emails that you should reply to with urgency.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some that you don't. But the problem is people don't have a regimen in terms of how they respond to correspondence in general. And it's almost like, you know, you get, oh, I got an email, I got to reply to it right away. But no, you don't. No, you don't. You need to categorize what's important, what needs to be replied to, depending on your business, but also have set times a day where you reply to emails and other correspondence.
You see, you're very, you know, black and white. So in my early days of being a professional speaker, I didn't have an admin, I didn't have any help. And there was faxes in those days. So I would, a fax, yeah. I would send a fax about speaking at a conference because I didn't have anybody to do it for me. And basically I had them all in a filing thing, right? And then I get an email saying, you know, are you available on this date? If I didn't reply immediately, they would move on to the next person. So in those days, we look a bit different. I have an admin now for Motivational Steps. For the Small Business Community Network, why I like to keep an eye on things and reply. One of our members was having a challenge the other day, and it was IT-related challenge. Luckily, I caught the email. Dave wasn't around, our IT guy, the other co-founder. I was able to go online and ask one of our, you know, Adam, Craig, something like, to help me out. The emails I neglect to answer are the ones that say, hey, did you know we can help you? We can help you build your website. We can make it better, or would you like more followers? I don't reply to those or answer them on time. Is there never a time when you have people looking at your emails? Do they ever contact you and say, one of your clients is having a problem? Can you take
absolutely.
care of it?
You know, we have a very specific protocol in our office in terms of what I need to see and what I need to reply to immediately, because we deal with life and death situations, and maybe it's in the financial side, but if somebody loses a family member or something like that, then we need to deal with that very quickly, right? Yeah. But all in other cases, I think what's also important is to, whether you're dealing with clients, whether you're dealing with people in general, is have a defined way that you do reply. So if you listen to our voicemails or what we communicate with clients, is that here's how we're going to reply, right? It's not going to be immediate. If we can answer the question quickly, fine. It may take time. So even when you do look at your emails at the beginning of the day, end of the day, sometimes you can allow yourself a couple of days to reply to something.
Yeah, I think so.
Because you don't necessarily have that reply in your hand.
Somebody also said, you know, I think it's the same with voice messages as well. You know, you've got to, if it really is urgent, but you know what I did that was really naughty, and I blame Dave a lot for this.
You blame a lot of people.
It's never my fault. I actually left an away message like over a year ago. It's been changed before a year ago, but somebody said to me, and I'm so glad they told me, I was sent your, you know, cell phone from your office phone, and it said you were away, you know, until October. And I don't know where I'd gone wrong with the message, and if he hadn't have told me, you know, I'd have been looked like a right idiot, wouldn't I, really? So keep an eye on the messages you're leaving for your away.
I mean, and that's an automatic setting for a lot of people, right? So you hear it in voicemail all the time, right? I'm away for the weekend, and this is Wednesday, right? So if you're going to have updated voicemail, then make sure you're keeping on top of it, or somebody's doing it for you, right? But also when you send those away messages, make sure that you follow the dates, you know? And somebody, well, you're supposed to be back on Monday, and it's a week Monday, and you're still away.
Professional. Right? Just thought of something before we move on to the next ones. when you start a new business, we've been there, we've both done that. Do you agree that it's nice to have a domain name with the email attached that reflects your brand? I think it's nice too, but how soon after you've started your business, do you think people should take that step? Because as we both know, there's changes happens in business and financial challenges. Right. How soon do you think?
I think that's important right from the start, to be honest with you, because you can do it fairly inexpensively. I mean, a domain is important, and having your entity attached to that, like northernriverfinancial.ca. If all of a sudden I'm sending information to people, I'm a financial advisor, financial planner, it says stevebentley@gmail.com. I mean, they're going to say, well, what's the size and professionality of your business, right? So sometimes it's an image and it's a professional aspect that I think is important. But that doesn't mean with a domain you've got to go and have all that website set up and all the different things you're using. Just the shell, at least to get you going.
I think it's very easy to do. So the other thing is, again, that leads us very nicely into our next one, follow-up. How often, and again, it depends on the business, should we follow up? Why are we following up? When should we follow up?
Well, I think it also helps to identify timelines and also senses of priority, right? But I think whenever you're communicating with somebody, in our business, for example, we are going to tell them after a meeting when we're going to be in touch with them next. We may schedule a meeting before we leave. But if we say, and I said this the other night to somebody, who said, we're going to say we're going to do something or we're going to follow up, and we need to do it when we say we're going to do it. Because that creates a sense of them saying, well, he really does know what he's talking about, and he's professional, and he's paying attention to the finer details. So that's actually a good mark on you to set that.
I think I'm really good at is not just following up, but I don't really have to chase clients anymore, but say somebody wants to join the Small Business Community Network, and I don't get a definitive answer, and they keep saying, keep reminding me. In any kind of sale, as long as you do it nicely, a no is not a no until the person says no. Right. And sometimes they forget about us or they haven't put us in their calendar, so they're grateful that we follow up. So again, persistence is a really good thing to think about.
Well, I have a term that I use. I'm patiently persistent.
I like that.
In other words, just try and set that expectation with the client, whoever you're communicating with, for that next point of communication, right? And those people who, it isn't necessarily their top priority, but if you're reminding them that you're going to follow up at a certain point and you do, well, eventually you're going to say, well, yes, we should get this done, right? Yeah. But you're right, you talk about objectives. It really is just another way to say, I don't have enough information. It's not necessarily a no, that's just a deflection, until it actually is a firm no. Yeah. So, we need to have a way that we're able to follow up with people and provide the information to help them make a decision to say, well, maybe it's not a no, maybe it's something that could work.
And be kind if you have to say no to someone who you may have been interested in working with. Say no in a kind way. Not everybody is so seasoned in business they can take rejection, can they? So, do it in a kind way. And even if you're not ready now, but you might be ready later again, be honest with them. And it's the same as if you haven't got, the finances to move forward now. I prefer people to be honest here.
I do. And I'm going to tell you one thing, too. It's important when you're looking at really listening to the people you're talking to and making sure you're getting the feedback you need. Because you're going to find that sometimes something isn't going to work for somebody, or something is a waste of time for you, and you don't want to just keep following up. You need to make a point at, okay, now I need to make a decision whether this is something that's going to work for both or whether we should even continue. So you're not always going to continue to follow up. You need to have a reason to follow up.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. Partnerships, I love this one. As everybody knows, and you know, Steve, I often mentor people who are interested, in joining the SBCN, coming to one of the meetings, or members like you do, Steve. And the ones that really, in a way, I feel sad for the people because, maybe it's innocence, maybe they're very naive, but it could be two guy friends, two girlfriends, we've known each other forever, we're going to form this partnership. I'm very cautious to say, well, take some steps to protect each other, even though you're friends. How many times do friends, in a personal sense, forget the business sense, fall out with each other?
And follow up because of business, right? I think you need a clearly defined business. And, even personal relationships, if you're dealing with people. I'll give you a perfect example. I had somebody come to me and was talking about potentially partnering with a person in an accounting firm. And I said, well, it's probably a good opportunity, but here's a couple things you should be looking at. Number one, make sure you're compatible in some things, but you also have balancing skill sets. You know, you don't want to be butting head and on the same issue. The other thing is trial. Try it out for 6 months, a year, whatever it is. Have a temporary or an interim agreement, but also have a backdoor. Because if something doesn't work or your personalities don't come together, you have different business minds, you don't want to bring everything together to have to pull it apart. So you need to have that trial and make sure you have that backdoor.
And also, it's not really a bad thing to include a lawyer, because you're covering both your interests.
Course, yeah.
I have known people in the past who've lost businesses and lost brands because their own brand, because their partner, in the purest sense of the word, they didn't have a lawyer, and they says, well, I've got the main part of the business now. I've been doing the most. I'm going to take this away from you, and that is heartbreaking. So basically, and also, I don't know about you, Steve. I like just doing the nice bits of my business. I don't like doing the worky bits. So define who does what. You can't.
Well, that's part of working out an agreement.
Yeah.
When you talk about using a lawyer, for example, it's paramount to me, because you don't want to be leaving yourself unprotected, because unfortunately there are some people out there who will take advantage of you, and if they've structured in a way that all of a sudden you're having to walk away from a business that you had because of some things that were put in place, it could really cost you your business. It could cost you your profession in some respects. So you need to really govern that off and make sure it's a legal document.
I've not really had a partnership other than with Dave, my husband, and my business partner. But it's a very flexible partnership, and we both got different skill set. But I remember Alex Ohanian, the founder of Reddit, went to see him a few years ago, and he said in those early years, I think there were 3 of them building Reddit, and he said he felt like the coffee boy was always making coffee and the gopher, but he said he knew that in years to come, when the IT and the other things, all the the background clever things were done, he knew he'd be the face of the business, in the sense going to people and saying, I need financial backing, I need to do the pitch, I need to approach those people. That was his skill set, and as you know, he's well renowned now, and that is what he did.
Well, I remember we talked about that on our TV show. We had Michael Litt from Vineyard on the show,
God, yeah.
and he's been with the same very good friend of his that started the business several years ago. And they've got that. They've each got their skill set. They balance each other out, and they work very closely together, and they work very well. So, some people are better at things than other people. So you might as well try and define that as part of working towards partnerships.
Well, you've got some partnerships, and I guess you've had, not issues, but you've had to sort these, things out in the beginning, define the roles, and say, well, if I'm not around you, you can make a decision for me, that kind of thing. It's all trust, isn't it, really?
Well, also in our business, there's a lot of regulatory and licensing issues in terms of who can make what decisions. So it's a very important structure within any business. Currently, it's my corporation, but in prior partnerships, certainly, that was very cleared out. And we worked with accountants, we worked with lawyers. We made sure that we had everything that we could think of was laid out. And so there was never a question about how something should be progressed.
Well, seasoned business owners, something just popped into my head then, and this was one of our members asked me a question. I'm sure she won't mind me sharing it. You just said about keeping up with the financial pros and cons and regulations, and the same in the food industry. So I guess the question was, do you go to the public health for the food industry? Where do you go for that kind of help? Do you look on a government website to find what's changed in that kind of rule?
I think it depends where you are in the industry, but certainly you got to do your homework, right? So you got to go online, you got to deal with all the regulatory authorities in the food services business, talk to other business owners, talk to lawyers and accountants who specialize in that particular industry.
But the rules are changing, aren't they?
But that's again where professional advisors, you need to be kept up to speed in terms of what you need to know.
If the government people are listening to our wonderful show,
it's hard to find them.
Oh, no. I know they're there somewhere. I will find you if you're hiding. The websites, the government websites, are so terrible to navigate. The amount of times somebody will phone me and go, Linda, you can do this. Can you find this for me? And I get so frustrated. And I've talked to the big people, the people, who do this kind of, and I say, can you make it simpler? And they go, well, there's such a lot of information. It's ridiculous. It should be made simpler.
Well, I give you a perfect example. I was dealing with a large insurance corporation the other week looking for a form, and I was online, and there was a link. I said, perfect, this is the form I need. So I clicked on the link. It took me to a government website, and it was about 16 pages of questions and answers. I went through the whole thing. I could not find the form.
There you go.
So it's just mind-boggling sometimes.
It is. So, Government of Canada, please change it so we know.
Provincial government too.
Provincial
right?
government, any government, anybody.
Any government.
We have a wonderful organisation, don't we, here in Waterloo Region. In particular, the Kitchener Waterloo Region Small Business Centre. You can go in there, find out a lot of information, and you can make an appointment. They'll sit down with you. Mm-hmm. We've got one in Waterloo, we've got one in Cambridge. So there are resources if you are struggling online. So, Steve, what is the next one we're going to tackle? Ooh, you could do this one.
I don't have any tasks that I don't enjoy. But essentially the question that came to us in the past week was, what tips do you have for dealing with tasks that you don't enjoy? And you know what I'm going to say? First of all, make sure, well, if I can, I delegate it, right? But certainly, there's a lot of things to talk about here, but I think sometimes the easiest way to deal with these tasks, because in a lot of cases they're more urgent than some others, deal with it up front.
Yeah.
Because we'll procrastinate, we'll put it off, and sometimes it won't get done. So that's one of the tips that I like to say, get it out of the way, get it done, and then you can carry on with what you enjoy. They're going to come up.
Yeah, I've always liked to do what I call grunge work, whether it's following up on emails or filing your emails, deleting your emails. Do that when my brain is like at its best because I don't enjoy it, so I'll find an excuse not to do it. And then I can concentrate on the work I really love. I've been working on spreadsheets, as you know, and I don't like spreadsheets. I've kept having to ask Dave's help, and basically I'm very happy to have Dave's help. But who would you call for help if you're working on a task, do you think, and you don't know how to move forward? You're a sole proprietor and you work in your office. Who'd you call? Not Ghostbusters.
I wasn't going to say that. That's an open-ended question. It really depends what you're dealing with, right? But I always go to your inner circle, right? Yes. There's going to be other people potentially in that industry or friends who are in business who may be able to give you some help. Another thing people are doing too is in professional circles sometimes. LinkedIn's a great tool. You've got a question, you may find some good answers out there. Even Facebook to some degree, if it's more of a generic kind of question, if you're looking for recommendations or something. But I think you got to look at your inner circle to see who you can maybe get the answer from.
And that's where the networking comes in. Mm-hmm. That's why networking works. Oh, I've got a good one. False news. I'm sorry, I love everybody.
Fake news, false news, alternative fact.
But I think people are beginning to not like me now, who know me, because, okay, so yesterday, a teenager has been missing. Somebody puts it on Facebook. Basically, I go, So all I do is take the information, pop it into Google, something like Fred Blogs been missing, age 13. What year are we in? 2019. This happened in 2013. The teenager was found, but basically people keep on sharing it. So I go and say nicely, it's not a good thing to do. Just keep posting stuff very innocently, and then everybody else follows on. So how can we get people to be more aware that they're helping themselves, but also helping everybody else too, if they don't just post it,
I think they need to know what they're posting, because I think it looks bad on you. I mean, I've seen over the last week a number of announcements that Lena Horne has died.
Oh, really?
But you know what? She died in 2013, right? Read a little bit to at least have an understanding what the post is about or what the question's about, or that it's current or relevant, because there's a lot of clickbait. There's a lot of things people give you, something about George Clooney. So, I have to know about that, and I click into it, and it takes me into some form of advertising.
Why do you think people, though? So I'm a
click happy.
I'm going to say complacent, because the awareness is there. If I'm not posting awareness, people I know are posting awareness. Please don't do this. Please don't do that. Is it because they only like doing the fun things and they don't want to be told, don't do that? Because really, as you say, it's impacting all of us, isn't it?
It does, and particularly if it's information we act on. I mean, we had a situation where that happened, right? Where somebody caught something in something that was published, on Facebook, and they said something, and they said it innocently, but I don't think they think about how that impacts the person who created the document, right? So I think it's important to understand, just take a second thought. And I think that's what I say to people too. Before you post it, just take a second thought about it and make sure the information is correct. And it is.
Search. It takes a second. I'm not an expert. I just type in.
I'll give you a perfect example, something totally unrelated to business. But I follow a couple Facebook pages about Algonquin Park, where I spent a lot of time, including this past weekend. And in the last week and a half, almost every half hour, how are the bugs up there? How are the bugs up there? And somebody was smart, and they said, just Google the page. You'll get lots of answers, right? Instead of do a little bit of research, try and find that information. You know, I always say to staff too, don't come to me with a question, right? Come to me with a question and an attempt at an answer.
You try
right?
to find the answer
it's
yourself.
your job to get the answer, but I'll help work through it if it's not absolutely what it should be. But
it's funny. It's
people
a funny
need to really think twice these days when they're posting.
It's a funny old world. I think social media really has made our lives easier, and in a way, it's made a lot of people more complacent because they think they can trust everything that's on there, and they can't. Tell you another lovely thing, like we've got one of them. Are they called Google Homes? And you go, "Hey Google, what's the weather today?" Or "Hey Google," you know, and we play around with it. Now, please read the facts about that and any other device like this, because basically, you know, there's an article that says, oh, it's recording everything you say, and even murders are going on and it knows about it. Actually, you've got to give it a command, as far as I'm aware.
You do.
Yeah, you've got to give it a command. I love to say thank you to ours, and it goes, oh, Canadians are so polite. I'm kind of making a new friend. These things, you know, if you live alone and you don't really want to make outside friends, you can make friends with your Google thing.
Well, you know, people talk about deep state and Big Brother.
I'll get out of it.
These things, as long as your connections are secure, they can't just do anything.
You have the
anything
power.
they want, right? You have to activate that device in order for it to record something or listen to something.
But if somebody's going to buy one, ask the questions. You know, can it do this? Will it do that?
Know what you're buying.
Yes.
It's so easy, right? Like, I was talking to my partner the other day, and we were talking about cameras, you know, and we just said, well, hey, it's so easy now to find out about a certain camera, about the specifics of it, the details of it, and general reviews of it. So even to do your own research on a topic, there's so much information out there, as long as you have the reliability of that information, because there's so much fake information out there too.
I've not really heard anything negative about reviews. People don't make fake reviews, do they, or do they?
Sure they do.
I don't know about
Matter
that.
of fact, there's been companies in the past who are paid to write reviews.
Really?
Right. So you really got to take it with a grain of salt. But that's the other thing too, right? We had somebody on our show last year who had a very bad example with one very specific situation with a client.
That
We're always going to have those slight difficulties with expectations, and that family went on a vendetta to post the exact same negative review. And so when anybody's going to look at this organization, look at the Facebook page, that's top of mind. So she was smart. What she said is, I'm going to reach out to some clients, and I'm going to get them to share some reviews. So it pushes those negatives to the bottom.
Nice.
So yes, there are negatives.
But her brand is so strong.
It is very strong.
Her business has grown. She's so successful. People would look at it and go, that's not right. That's somebody just doing this to be spiteful. And, you know, we talk about this a lot, don't we, Steve? Be kind to each other. Treat each other with the respect with which you want to be treated. And basically, it doesn't take a lot, does it, to be kind to each other and say, you know, okay, you didn't do a very good job. I'm not going to give you a bad review. Just make it better for the next customer.
I talked about this in the last show. I'm not going to go through it again. Just to say, though, if you've got an issue with a client or with a company, reach out and talk to them first. Make sure they have the time and the chance to reply to whatever your concern is. If you don't get, if you get blown off or something like that, well, then you can take a different tack. But try and sort it out with them first, and don't go take it public.
I would like to know, like, a question from Todd. Excuse me, Steve, I do ends that number one. Can you read our question out? Hi, Todd.
So Todd said, hi, Linda and Steve. How nice of them. Have you ever thought of or currently used technologies like Google Home for some of your business tasks?
Ooh, I don't know about me. Dave may do. What about you?
Yeah, not specifically with respect to the home technology. We certainly use a lot of Google and Microsoft applications for our business, but not in the same vernacular in terms of like a home device. So I can't really say that we do.
So I'm going to throw it back to you, Todd. Are you thinking about doing this with your business? If so, where did you get the idea from? Because I haven't even thought about that.
No.
Would it be able to do my phone calls or return my phone calls?
No.
So if Todd can let us know, where that question come from, we might have a better.
But even where the question comes from, I think you need to do your research in terms of what your application is. Try and go out there and reach and do some online research to see if other people have used it for business.
It's been asking,
and what application it works and maybe where it doesn't.
And I know it can do a lot more. It's been asking me lately, Todd, if I want to, read the news. If I just got to ask if I want the news from it and stuff like that. So I know there's an awful lot you can do I don't have an answer to that, do you?
No.
But thank you, Todd. That was a very, very good question. You caught us out there.
But maybe we can do a little research.
Yes, we'll do some research for next week. I'm so happy to see Todd. I have to give Todd some kudos. So, Todd Foster Your Mortgage. I think that's a wonderful brand. One thing that stands out about Todd, I mean, you always look beautiful, and so do a lot of other people. But Todd has a way with his brand. He wears the most amazing jackets, and he's not scared to wear coloured jackets. So if you're going to brand yourself, look up Todd Foster Your Mortgage. I think his brand's amazing.
He makes himself stand out from a crowd.
He does.
Everybody wears the same suit. Right?
He's very friendly.
I think he had like red shoelaces the other day.
Really? You noticed his shoelaces?
I said, would you coordinate that with Craig Herner because he wears red?
I didn't notice your shoelaces. Yeah. That is quite funny. I always notice men's ties when we're networking. Ian Ingalls, Remax, one of our fantastic sponsor members, he used to. Recently, it's the summer and we're getting warmer, but in the winter, always wear a tie. Looks amazing. What stands out now? I know your partner's probably listening, but what stands out about a woman's brand with you? If a woman walks into the room, what is it you notice about, the way she's dressed?
In general, I think deportment's so important, and dressing nicely is important. Mm-hmm. I think, take an example of you or anybody else where maybe there's a color that's oriented to the brand, or maybe there's a very specific aspect to their brand. I know somebody's going to be on our show this year. It stands out because she has certain highlight streaks in her hair.
Who's
right?
that?
Shauna.
Oh, yes, I haven't met her yet.
Yeah. So she stands out a little bit in the crowd, but it's also personality, how they carry themselves, right?
Yeah.
I can't say specifically there's something that draws it, but I do look at
and that's
how people
what you
carry
need.
themselves in their deportment.
You need to be noticed.
Right? But I'll tell you, with guys, it's not ties anymore, it's socks.
Okay, I'm going to have to start looking.
No, not my socks. I just got my hiking socks on today. It's a drywear.
Drywear.
Just
giving a bit of a plug to drywear. I'm going to start
colorful,
looking at socks.
candy canes on socks in the winter. You gave me a pair, actually, that I wear Christmas.
Don't tell my husband.
Right?
Yes, it was the SBCN Christmas social. Yeah. You won the quiz, so everybody got a pair of socks.
Yeah, and I actually wore them.
Yeah. I think it's very important. There's a local lady, she's a golf coach or something, and she dresses appropriately for, being on the golf course, and she stands out from the crowd, so there's a little tip. So what do you want to leave with us, Steve? We've got about 3 minutes left. What do you want to leave with us about Northern River Financial? What are you up to, over the next few months?
Summer vacation. The first 6 months of the year are always busy for us, right? We've got some tax filings coming up into mid-June with some of our entrepreneur and sole proprietor clients. But for us, we make sure we definitively take time away to spend some time with family, to spend some time with friends. So you're going to see me a lot up north in the next number of months.
Oh, you invited me with you.
But I think it's important. And I think the one question I did have, which somebody posted to me this week, is how do you balance that, right? Taking time off, and if you are away, what do you do in terms of connectivity? And here's what I suggest to people. It's depending, wherever you are, right? If you're on a vacation, you're on a beach in the Caribbean, wherever, you need to make sure that you have a process by which you deal with communication. So you have staff, obviously, they're delegated with responsibilities, but you need to be accessible. But that doesn't mean you should be sitting on the beach as the waves roll in and checking your emails every 10 minutes, right? So it's important to have that process.
And I mean, when we go away, it's normally for work and we get a few days here or there, so we do have the roaming, and it's well worth it because, you never know when there's an emergency, particularly, I guess, if you've got families at home, if you've got children, you want to know what's going on at home. It's very difficult, isn't it, when we really love our work to switch off, and we've got to find ways of switching off the technology. I try now not to take my laptop into the family room and, write blogs and stuff because I work too hard. I really do. So I've got to take time for me. So Northern River Financial, Steve, you're going to be taking a long holiday. Your partner's going to be doing all the work.
But again, it's staff, right? What I prefer to do is not take 3 weeks off. I like to take long weekends or a week at a time because it's hard to be away from business for a prolonged period of time. Depends on your profession, right?
Yeah, unless you're traveling.
See, that question from Todd is triggering a few things about using things for calendar appointments and articles and things, blog posts.
So Todd came up with
and as
some
reminders
ideas,
too. So he obviously has put some
Well
thought to
done,
it.
Todd. I'm very proud of you.
But in the interest of time, we really can't get into it.
Yeah,
tonight.
we've got a few seconds left. So again, I'd like to thank you all for coming along and watching and listening to us live on SBCN TV. We'll be back again on, Steve, you always have the date when the next one
What's
is.
the date today?
I don't know.
It's June 6th. But I could be wrong by a day or two.
Yeah,
But,
I tend
first
not
week
to
in
be a
June.
calendar watcher.
but I'd have to check that, to be honest with you. I got so many things, so I can't keep that in. But I think it's around that time.
So we've got to go. We'll be back again in 2 weeks. Have a lovely evening, everyone.
And get outside. Enjoy yourself.